Okay, now you're good. Okay, we're good. We're gonna go live here. Ready? Once I see that change. I think we're live. Okay, we're live. Wow. That clearly what the Avalanche proved to us today is than anything that they don't care about the health of my heart. Because I think I was gonna have a heart attack about 7 times during that game. It was not pleasant, but at the end of the day, they got it done. Welcome in to the Off-Brand Avalanche podcast. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you're on YouTube, whatever your platform allows you to do. Go ahead and support us a bit, but we're gonna do a little bit of review on that game, and it's a big win. You know, we talked about it all, like going into the game. Zach, we talked about it. That was the biggest game they played so far this season. And I mean, the nature of a 7-game series is the next one's even bigger. But that was massive. That was the last 10 minutes of that game were the difference between really being dead in the water as far as the playoffs are concerned and making this a series. So
wow,
we're all
just crazy game to watch.
We didn't make it easy on ourselves, but we are alive now.
This is one of the craziest games I've ever seen in my entire life, especially the third period. Once the Stars got that first goal, I was like, okay, we're still fine. They got that second goal. Zach and I didn't say a thing to each other. I kind of freaked out a little bit. When the Stars got that third goal in the third period, I was like,
oh my god.
Dude, my blood was absolutely boiling.
And this is where I need to interject right here. I need to interject and just touch on the grittiness of the boys. Knowing you're down 2-0 in the series, knowing you're down a goal after giving up 3 unanswered in the third. Not only did you collapse last game, you collapsed again this game. And just to find the willpower to fucking come back and make this a fucking series is the difference. Between wow, that's what's giving me the wow factor is the grittiness of the Avalanche here.
Yeah. I mean, exactly, Zach. And I have Rantanen on the thumbnail because the exact thing that you're talking about. Because when the momentum is all on Dallas and you still find a way to score, McKinnon really did the work and Rantanen put it in. I mean, both of them did work on that play, but when all of the momentum's going the other way and you still find a way to put the puck in the net, that shows some true character. So that was incredible to watch. Mark's touching on just some of the emotions we went through. When the Stars scored that fourth goal, I had that feeling. You guys, when you're having a nightmare, and then the nightmare gets so bad that you're like, oh, I'm having a nightmare because this is too bad to be real life. I had that feeling when the Stars scored the fourth goal. And then McKinnon and Rantanen saved us at the end, and then Belmar put one in, Kadri on the tip from Kevin Connaughton, of all people, getting in the mix there. I love that. I love getting contributions from all over the place, but...
Yeah, one thing that maybe not a lot of people were able to catch, but after the Stars got their fourth goal, Cale Makar went up to Frankie, tapped him on the pads, and said everything's going to be okay. If that does not spark a little bit of a little bit of inspiration from not only Frankie but the rest of the team, knowing that the boys believe in Frankie and that they can come back, then I don't really know what does. I think that is an absolutely huge thing for Makar to do. It's not easy after they score 3 unanswered goals in the third period to take the lead, to go to your goaltender and say, hey, we got your back. And Makar did that.
And not only that, Makar got an assist, game-winning goal. So not only did he show the ability to go leadership traits, really, to go up to Frankie and say, hey, we fucked up a little bit letting him get to you, but we're gonna get this back.
Yep.
And then he went out and did. He got the assist on the game-winning goal, and I'm not totally sure. I know he had 3 assists in the game. I'm not sure if one of them was also on the tying goal, but that's definitely something that you love to see, especially out of a young
rookie
player like Makar.
A rookie, right. And really the rookie that is leading your defense, like your defenseman. Really, yeah, I mean, like Makar is a rookie, and he is the most talented player on your blue line. And for him to go up to Frankie, not having a letter, and being really an amateur, especially in the playoffs, that speaks volumes to the way that this team believes. And really, that is what I saw from this team all night. The first period did not go their way. The Stars were down, or the Avs were down 1-0, and their fight in the second period, and especially their fight in the third period, makes me believe that they can come back from this series. Series.
Yeah.
And it's a series now, Yeah.
If
last night it wasn't a series, tonight it is, because now the Avs are on the board as well. And you go into Friday's game, and you win Friday's game, and suddenly now it's just, you know what? We're playing a 3-game series. So this was absolutely massive, and it gets bigger and bigger as the games go on, Game 3 is the biggest game the Avs have played this season. Game 4 is bigger. If the Avs win Game 4, win or lose Game 4, Game 5 is bigger. And that's one of the things I love and also hate about playoff hockey. I love it because it's incredible to witness, and I hate it because it is just like this game. It'll give you a heart attack to witness. But I just love how important things just keep getting more and more important as the games go on. So going into Game 4, the Avs finally sparked something. And, Zach and I talked really on, I believe, both of the last podcasts even, about trying to spark something, maybe even by putting in a younger player. And at the time, we were talking about Connor Timmins. Mm-hmm. What the Avs did today was put in Logan O'Connor. And, Logan O'Connor didn't show up on the scoreboard. But Logan O'Connor was on the ice, and he made sure that the Stars knew that, because he was driving, he was forechecking, he was out skating icings, he was 100% of the time. And I felt like the Avs were a little bit feeding off LOC's energy.
Yes.
And, not to say that they maybe wouldn't have won the game off without him, or maybe that they wouldn't have played as well without him, but I think that LOC made an impact on this game. Logan O'Connor, while not the most important Av on the ice, is a big part of the reason that the Avs won this game.
Right. He, to me, really drove play for the Avs a lot in the first half of the game. And I remember telling Marshall after the first period, the Avs were down 1-0 at this point, and I say, LOC, McKinnon, Rantanen, get him out there, because LOC was literally driving play. And it's just like, that just really goes to, the character win of this game, and how that is so important moving on in the series. To me, I'm glad we had a fantastic character win in this game, and didn't necessarily blow them out of the water. I think this is really more important to the boys' psyche than a blowout would have been.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. And going back to LOC, I think that he was our best player in the first period. Mm-hmm. Every single shift that he got, which were few and far between, he had 3 or 4 shifts in the first period, but every single time he touched the ice, he got the pucks deep. He grinded every single time that he got a chance. And I think that was very important, Billy, like you were saying. I don't know if that's the game. I don't think that's going to be the overall X factor for the game, but it helps the boys get energized. If you see a guy that just got inserted into the lineup going that hard to try to help your team win, it's got to at least help something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was doing everything that he could possibly do in the limited amount of time that he saw the ice, and I loved what I saw from LOC tonight. He's just that type of player. He was a captain at DU, and there's a reason that he was a captain at DU.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And, the other thing we've talked about in the last 2 games is how much the loss of Matt Calvert hurt. And LOC didn't replace Matt Calvert 1-for-1, but he brought a lot of that same energy. Just I know I'm not the most skilled player on the ice, but you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to outwork everyone, and I'm going to grind, and I'm going to block shots if that's what I have to do. I'm going to forecheck if that's what I have to do. I'm going to grind in the corners. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And LOC brought that energy that we lost when Matt Calvert got hurt. And I think it was really big for him. It's something special, and it's one of those things that makes me, I've loved LOC for a while now. I've been high on him, but it's one of those things that makes me think, he probably is the 13th forward next year, and it's one of those 13th forwards that I'm so comfortable just popping into the lineup and knowing that on any given night he's going to do everything he can to help the boys win.
And dude, the reason, not a lot of people know, but at DU, LOC did not necessarily put up a lot of points. The reason that he made an NHL roster is because of the heart and because of his leadership ability. And I mean, he does have some nice skill sets. We've seen him. He's pretty quick on the puck, but he's not going to be an absolute force for years to come. But Billy, the comparison that you brought up just a minute ago with Matt Calvert, I do think that there are a lot of similarities there, and I think that LOC can be a legitimate NHL player moving down the line, just because of that grittiness that he brings, just because of that leadership and the will to win. Every single game, he's going to help do whatever he can to help his team, reach that plateau and get better every single time and inevitably win the game. So
exactly. And the Avs, they hadn't been getting it from the bottom 9. Today they did, and that's a big reason they won the game. But another big reason they won the game is because the Stars got it done again. Not the Dallas Stars, the Avalanche's Stars. We talked a little bit about the heart that McKinnon and Rantanen showed on that tying goal after you cough up a 3-1 lead in the third period to be able to bounce back. But all game, McKinnon, just as he has been all series, has been grinding. I think this was Rantanen's best game of the series as well. But the two of them together are a force that is unmatched by anyone else, any other team in the bubble right now, except maybe Boston with their top line. But you gotta love what they bring, and they brought it today, and they brought it at the most crucial time.
Right, and I just gotta say, what a break they had right there on the 2-on-1 and a quick transition. That's exactly what the two players you want in the Avalanche having that opportunity, and they capitalized on it. So that's just, McKinnon, I don't know if they really touched on it too much, extending his point streak, becoming the franchise leader in Avalanche history and playoff point streak. So that's pretty exciting, very incredible. Passing Joe Sakic, he's in elite territory for sure. I mean, he keeps showing it over and over.
If you look at the players that have been on the Avalanche roster, especially in their heyday with, Sakic, Forsberg, I mean, even some defensemen like Rob Blake and all that. McKinnon is truly putting on a special show right now. And to be honest, I told Zach this. I don't think that this is the best game that we saw McKinnon play. He was good. He was good. He was good. And obviously, there's a reason that he's an absolute superstar and arguably the best player in the league right now. But at the same time, this is a game that gives me a lot of confidence because the rest of the team they were helping McKinnon out, It's it wasn't just on McKinnon's back this time. It was just greediness and a will to win in this game that we haven't seen so far in the series. And if we can get those combos to start clicking, McKinnon and especially Rantanen in that first line to start working together like they have been, and with the combination of the bottom 9 clicking like they were, especially even some defense Zadorov. I liked what I saw from him, and just some contributions from outside of the first line. If we can get those two things to start clicking, then I have a lot of confidence in this team moving forward in this series.
And Marcel, you mentioned Zadorov. We'll talk about the injury at the end, but we're going to keep it positive for now. But talking about the contributions from the secondary scoring, going into this game, the Avs had not scored a goal in this series that McKinnon didn't either score or have an assist on. Some of the guys that put up points in this game include Andrei Burakovsky with a goal, Nikita Zadorov with a goal, Kevin Connaughton with the shot that got the assist on the Kadri tip. So you're talking about everyone getting things done. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, it was an empty netter, but scored his first career playoff goal. So top to bottom, the Avalanche roster played a better game. Was this an A-plus Avalanche game? No. They didn't play their best game today, and you know that because they gave up a 3-1 lead. But they played a much better game than they played in Game 1 and 2, and this is progress. Now you go out in Game 4, and you do play your A-plus game. Because the Avalanche are that team, as an underdog, it's difficult. Dallas is in a situation where if Dallas plays their best game of the year, and the Avalanche also play their best game of the year, unless the bounces go Dallas's way, the Avalanche are going to win. But that also makes it a little bit difficult on the Avalanche because everybody knows that, which means there's that much more pressure on you to bring out your A-plus game. And now that you're back in this series, and really, this series, I'd say, is probably a coin toss at this time. Dallas does have the advantage as far as the series score is concerned at the 2-1 lead. The Avalanche, I think most people, I don't think I'm being controversial saying that the Avalanche are probably the better team, but I really feel like this series is now a coin flip. So going into Game 4, really whoever wins that one is going to take command and take control of the series.
I agree.
Yep. Definitely agree. Couple things that I had questions for you guys. What did you think about Frankie's game overall?
One of the downsides, I didn't think Frankie played great. I thought he had some moments where he made some decent saves, and there was no one goal where you look at Frankie and say, what the hell are you doing, Frankie? How did that go in?
Well, kind of on that first goal, no?
He had about...
Where he comes out to challenge Ben a little bit, and the second is around the back end. That one's
questionable to me.
I agree.
Especially with a smaller goalie, that one is when you're a little guy in goal and they pass out from behind that to the front of the net, you get in front of it the best you can, but sometimes it's just you're not going to save that, especially as a little guy. The bigger problem to me was he was not seeing pucks well through traffic. So part of that might be that the Avs need to clear traffic a little bit better. Maybe they need to get out of his way because they were in his lanes a couple times. But it looked to me like Frankie, there were times when he could have just had a little bit more puck tracking ability that he didn't show today that really could have benefited the Avs because, both of the Stars' last two goals to tie it up and then take the lead were point shots that weren't tipped. They just got in clean because Frankie didn't see them.
Mm-hmm. The one that went in between his arm, I really hate that one.
Yeah, that one he should have saved.
It's on his body,
If it hits you.
And, yeah, exactly. If it's supposed to hit you center mat, you got to save that. It's just, you got to stop that. And, obviously this isn't Frankie's best game, but another knock, I guess, is his rebound control. And we've touched about that on the past. He just did not have the rebounds on lock tonight, and that's an issue going back to last game and probably going forward. And the Stars know that. They're banging away. And also the Avs defense are going to have to – they know that too. They're going to have to start laying people on their ass in front of the net.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we should give some credit where credit is due for Frankie, though, because he did make some very key saves, especially in the third. There were a couple saves that he made that were, spectacular.
Mm-hmm. But he was there when he needed to be.
Well, a couple of instances was the stick save and then that big save on the power play. Yes. And at that point, I was like, okay, Frankie's like he's on his game right now. But then consistency starts hitting, and it's like he lets in some softer ones, not necessarily like it was entirely Frankie's fault, because there is plenty to blame on the Avalanche's defensive breakdown. But I don't think it was an absolutely dominant game by Frankie, but he gave them enough for them to win the game. And that's really, right now, all we can really ask for.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say, you're right, Marshall, that Frankie did enough to give the Avs a chance in this game, and the Avs had a chance in this game and took advantage of it. I will say that moving forward, assuming no changes in the offseason, no trades for Matt Murray or anything, what is now clear is that Grubauer is the starter. There's not any more like, oh, it's close, this is a tandem. It's Grubauer's the starter and Frankie is the backup. Frankie, there's not many backups in the league that I would choose over Frankie, but he is the backup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I would totally agree with that. If we can keep this tandem together for the next couple of years, then I'm super comfortable with the Avalanche goaltending situation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would like a little bit more of an elite starter, but like who doesn't want a little bit more of an elite starter? You always do. But Grubauer, I believe, I mean, the way he played in the playoffs and especially this year, I do believe that Grubauer is a legitimate NHL starter, and I don't think there's much more left to prove for him other than can he be a healthy NHL starter. So there's that. I love that we have Justus Annunen in the pipeline. I think that he can take over that job eventually. But I don't think that while it might be the Avs' biggest weakness at the moment, I don't think that the Avs' goalie tandem is a weakness.
Yeah, no. They at least give the Avalanche a chance to win any given night. And to be honest, I think that they give the Avalanche a chance to win a Stanley Cup.
I agree with that completely. And as Flamin' Bros says, hopefully they do win the Stanley Cup this year.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of digging deep, but I mean, it's absolutely not out of the question. The Avs have been a cup contender. They're one of the bigger cup contenders this year, and I'm really hopeful. Had they lost tonight, it would have obviously been panic time. We were starting to panic a little bit. I mean, even after last night, but I'm feeling a lot more comfortable today. Not exactly comfortable yet because we are still losing the series, but I definitely think we have a very, very good chance to bounce back. So can't wait to get to that point. We've talked a lot about the game. Let's get into the kind of negative here. Zadorov did get hurt. Unclear, and it will not be clear to us at any point whether or not he'll be back for next game. We'll find out at puck drop whether or not he's going to be back. I would presume EJ is probably done for the rest of this series, so we're going to assume he's not in the lineup either. What do we lose with the Zadorov, and who do you bring in? Because I think the two options right now are Mark Barberio and Connor Timmins. I like the veteran presence that Mark Barberio brings. I don't love that. I don't love the idea of rolling out a Barberio Connaughton pairing, and I just think you lose quite a bit of. I don't necessarily want to say skill because you're not like losing, like Zadorov isn't a skill player that you're losing, but you're right, Marshall. You're losing grittiness with Zadorov. I think that with the two injuries, it's time to bring in Connor Timmins. I don't know that the Avs will agree with that, but I definitely think that it's time to bring in Connor Timmins. You know, we've been hit somewhat hard with the injuries in the past 3 games. You know, we've got EJ out, we've got Matt Calvert out, we've got Grubauer out, and now Zadorov. So I guess I'll just put it on you guys. What would you do? What do you think the Avs would do?
This is pretty hard. I kind of agree, like you said, Billy. like with the Avs, I think they'd probably go with the more veteran presence and bringing in Barberio. Well, like you said, I hate the idea of a Barberio Connaughton fucking pairing. That sounds just absolutely brutal to watch and throw out on the ice, especially during crunch time. Um, I it's kind of hard for me to throw in a rookie into a playoff game. We saw what happened in the game before where, well, it is I guess not really comparable because he's playing goaltender in the game directly before the Avs game. I can't remember who was playing.
Yeah, Boston threw in a third-string goalie, a rookie goalie.
Mm-hmm. A rookie goaltender, and he gets lit up.
Yeah.
And, it's not his fault. He's a rookie, and I just don't want to put Connor Timmins in that position. I'd rather put him in a position to succeed.
You're right there. Because, as the fans, obviously we all want Connor Timmins. We want the prospect, not the 30-year-old veteran. We know what the 30-year-old veteran is. We hope that the prospect does what Cale Makar did in his first game. But the reality of the situation is that, no, Connor Timmins isn't a goalie, so it's not going to be as drastic as what happened in Boston where you give up 3 goals. But the reality is that what the coaches see is that throwing in a rookie risks you throwing him out there, and he's not ready, and he gives up a goal. And then you lose that game by a goal, and you know what? You lost because you put a rookie in instead of playing it safe and not swinging for the upside and rolling with Barberio, which is, I think that's typically the disconnect between the fans and the coaching staff, because the fans are never gonna expect a downside out of a rookie. We all love our prospects, but that is definitely a possibility. The one thing I will say, which I think is what makes Connor Timmins a little bit more of a realistic possibility, is that Timmins has played NHL games before, so it's not like he just has no clue what the speed is going to be like. He has no clue what kind of pace he needs to play at. He should be a little bit more okay, but it's definitely questionable. You have to really consider it before you put him in.
Okay, so this is probably definitely going against what you guys have all just said, and I do agree that we end up bringing in Barberio or a Lindholm, but is there any question at all on bringing in Byram?
I don't think so. I think Byram is just the more extreme version of Timmins. So it's we like I said, we're the fans, so we all love Byram, and 4th overall pick, an extremely talented player, and an NHL ready player probably. But you're down 2-1 in the series. This is make or break. If you go down 3-1 in the series, that is very, very uncommon to come back from. You're not going to risk, throwing in Connor Timmins, a guy with a couple of NHL games, is risky enough. Throwing in Bowen Byram, a guy with no NHL games, is just the next level risk. So, no.
No, I agree with that. But at the same time, it's like there could be a certain level of spark that he brings.
Yeah, but I mean...
No, I agree with you guys are saying.
Timmins, so...
And yes, I agree that I think with the Avs, if hopefully Zadorov is okay.
Yes.
Hopefully he comes back on Friday. But if he doesn't, then I do think the Avs will with Barberio. And then the next guy up after Barberio has to be Timmins. It's kind of a mixture. It's like he'll bring some rookie spark, maybe bring in a whole other life to this defense. We know what we're gonna get with Barberio, like you guys are saying. But maybe if they're looking for a little bit something extra, maybe to put the Avs over the top in the series, then I think Timmins can come in. But it is still we did bring Bowen Byram into the bubble, so that question has to be asked. That's why I was the one to do it. That's why I had to do it, and that's why I had to do it. And like you were saying, Billy, us as fans, if the fans were controlling the roster decisions, I think Bowen Byram would be
probably
in the lineup,
and Connor Timmins would also be in for Kevin Connaughton, so they'd be your bottom pairing.
Yes, and that's why the fans don't control the roster decisions, and we leave that up to Bednar and his coaching staff. But I had to ask that question because that's something that I bet a lot of fans are kind of talking about. Bowen Byram is not NHL playoff second round back to the wall game ready.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we got Flamin' Bros in the chat here. He's asking, so who are the Avs allowed to bring into the roster? When the Avs went into the bubble, they brought their 28 skaters. So any of those skaters they're allowed to bring. As far as the defensemen that are there right now, I believe it's Kevin Connauton was the first call up. You also have Mark Barberio, Connor Timmins, Bowen Byram, Lindholm. I forgot his first name for the minute, but whatever. So that's who you're allowed to bring in. You can't call anyone in unless you have major injuries. As far as goaltending is concerned, with the Grubauer injury, now that if the Avs took another injury, they wouldn't have enough to play a game, basically, because they wouldn't have anyone to dress as a backup. So Hunter Miska is actually in the bubble right now, quarantining.
He's quarantining.
He would be the third string. So if another goalie got hurt, that's who you would be allowed to bring in. And presumably, if enough skaters got hurt that you were at that point, which would be a lot of skaters, that would be pretty crazy. But that is essentially how it works. So if you have so many skaters that you absolutely have to bring someone else in, then you can bring one more guy in. He has to quarantine for 7 days, and then he can play. That's what they're doing with Hunter Miska as far as goalies. But it's definitely an interesting system. So I like that the Avs have options.
That's the reason that the NHL allowed them to bring so many players in, is because of the fact that there are going to be injuries that happen, and they need to have at least some sort of a little bit of a plethora of backup options, and honestly with roster players and skaters, D-men and forwards, we shouldn't really run into that situation where we have to bring someone else in and have them quarantined for 7 days. Goaltending is a different situation, because if we're bringing in 3 players, one goaltender gets sent down or gets injured or whatever, then you're gonna have to bring someone else up. But we should definitely not run into that issue with D-men, and if we do, then holy crap, we are in a pickle.
Yeah, if we did,
say the least.
I mean, that's when you're rolling out Connor Timmins and Bowen Byram as your top pairing with Connauton and Lindholm behind them, and you're like, okay. We just turned into the Edmonton Oilers, so luckily we shouldn't have to get to that point. But I like where the Avs are at today. Like I said, this wasn't an A+ game. There was absolutely room for improvement. There are things the Avs could have done better, but they came out with the win. We are now in a legitimate series. This is no longer the Avs are dead in the water. This is the Avs win one game, and this is a wash. And that 2-game, whatever you want to call the first 2 games of the series, it doesn't matter anymore because it was a wash, and now we're playing a 3-game series to decide it. So we'll have to see how the Avs come out and respond, and I hope that they play their best game of the series in Game 4, and I think there's a good chance they do. If you're still with us in the chat, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Marshall and Zach, are there any other things that you guys want to talk about before we get out of here for the day?
No.
I do have something. Anything on that Rantanen hit at the end? You think he sees some sort of discipline?
No discipline. I think he was more of a cross-check than a knee-on-knee, in my opinion.
I don't think there's any discipline. I think it was...
Nah.
It would actually be pretty brutal for Heiskanen to be out for the Stars, and that's really unfortunate. You hate to see any player, but a player of that caliber going down is really unfortunate, and you hate to see it. It didn't, to me, look like an egregiously dirty hit. So
not malicious.
I would be very surprised to see a suspension, maybe a fine at the absolute worst, but no, I think maybe it should have been a 2-minute penalty, but that's the extent of it. So I don't think we see much out of that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
That's kind of all I wanted to bring up, though.
All right. Well, it's a good day. The Avs didn't make it easy on us to watch, but it was a fun game, and it's a game we're going to remember for a while, especially if the Avs find a way to come out of this series. So thank you to all our viewers for sticking with us at the end of this podcast here. And go ahead, check us out all over. We're on all kinds of platforms. We stream these live on YouTube, but we're also on iTunes. We're on Google Play. Anywhere you listen to your podcasts, you can find us. So whatever works for you works for us, and we'll see you in our next episode.